This week on Storyboard, we have Puneet Das, President Packaged Beverages India and South Asia, Tata Consumer Products, speak about how do they shape Jaago Re narrative year on year, why is it so important for Tata Tea to run this campaign for so long, Tata Tea's localization strategy and much more. And we have Ashish Mishra, CEO Interbrands India and South Asia, and Gonzalo Brujo, Global CEO Interbrands, speaking about the big trends from Interbrands' Best Indian Brand Report. Hello and welcome to Storyboard. I'm Shubhani Gharat. Tata Tea Premium's Jaago Re campaigns have been instrumental in stirring change on ground with impactful solutions for the larger society and their collective issues since 2007. And this edition of Jaago Re intends to do the same. It is an awakening call to the parents by their kids for the climate change repercussions they will face in coming years. To tell us more about this, how do they shape their Jaago Re narrative year on year? Why is it so important for Tata Tea to run this campaign for so long? Tata Tea's localization strategy and much more. We are joined in by Puneet Das, President, Packaged Beverages, India and South Asia, Tata Consumer Products. Puneet, welcome to CNBC-TV18.
Thank you, Shivani. Great to be here.
Puneet, first up, why did you decide to extend the narrative of climate change in this edition of Jaago Re as well? I believe last year you had also breached a conversation around climate change. So why did you extend it?
So, in Jaago Re, we pick up themes which are sort of, which the society is going through. And we want, obviously, people to talk about it, spread awareness on it, and request people to take action on it. And societal changes take time. And of course, in the past, we've taken up issues such as corruption, election, women empowerment. Even during COVID-19, we talked about, the awareness of vaccines, etc. But I think climate change as a problem that all of us are going through, this current generation, is a more longer term issue. And we thought that what we did last year was just about starting to spread awareness about it. This year we want to obviously scale it up, get more and more people talking about it, and also in line with if you sort of see in the environment and the government around, everyone's talking about how individuals should start taking action to make us more pro-planet. So that's why we wanted to take this conversation forward.
What are the things that the brand is doing to actually bring about some change?
Also, there are a lot of the initiatives that we're doing both at a brand level as well as a corporate level. Of course, first of all, I think from a campaign point of view, one of the big initiatives also from Tata Tea point of view is get this as part of everyday conversation in household. Corporate level, we obviously have our commitment towards a better planet, and we've been doing stuff like our carbon footprint has decreased by 18% from 2010 to 22. All our beverage factories globally are zero waste to landfill sites. We have targets on water neutral across all operations by 2030. So both at a corporate level and as a brand level, we sort of want to take this topic and meaningful things to mitigate it.
Okay. Also, 16 years of Jaago Re. How do you keep a campaign alive for such a long time? And when you come up with these narratives, how do you decide upon the topics that you want to bring across to the consumer or put forth in front of the consumer?
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting question. In fact, one of the big responsibility we have is to really pick up the most relevant topic, because to us it's a very authentic brand purpose campaign. It's not a gimmick or a fad that we ride on. And I think the reason it has sort of stayed relevant over 16 years is because at the heart of it is about awakening people. We take a very functional benefit of waking up by tea to awaken, which is a philosophy. And every sort of generation, every few years, there are issues and there are larger society problems that we can take up and talk about it and get society and people to mobilize and take action on it. And I think we obviously in the current Jaago Re campaigns, we have been doing a lot of social media listening researches which tell us what's the problem plaguing the society at large. And climate change we had picked up last 2 years, and in fact a lot of chatter is happening among the younger generation, and not just youth but school children, talking about how how they are getting affected, and which is also the inside of our campaign, that it's what kind of planet are we really leaving for our kids, because they are the ones who are gonna live through most of their lifestyle, and the generation after that, and that's really what we are also trying to highlight through our new Jaago Re climate change campaign.
What makes the brand keep this campaign alive for such a long time, this property alive for such a long time?
I think it's about just being close to the consumer and the society, and understanding the pulse of the nation at that point in time. Like I said, when the first Jaago Re campaign was launched, it was really about and this was in 2007, when I think the statistics showed that not many people are taking election as their primary duty, and and it was about encouraging people that the change, if you want to change, the society or the government, starts with you. And then it took up themes like corruption, it took up themes like women empowerment. Also, what is relevant, sort of comes out if you really are very close to your consumers. And that's been the success behind this Jaago Re so far.
Okay, so now moving on from Jaago Re to the packaged tea, tell us what is the current outlook for the packaged tea market in India?
So I think, we obviously had a first half of last year, the financial year was, we had inflationary headwinds, and rural demand was suppressed. In fact, in quarter 4 of the financial year, we started seeing growths coming back, single-digit growths coming back. We also exited with a 3% volume growth in quarter 4 on our packaged beverage portfolio. And we are now seeing month-on-month sort of growth recovery. So we are cautiously optimistic. And over the long term, however, if you see, I think that the demand is stable and growing, and action is happening both at the premium end as well as bottom of the pyramid, and that's something that is very good. And of course, in our category, especially the tea category, the movement from unbranded to branded sort of remains the sort of the key growth for brands, and that's sort of continuing if you look at the medium to long term.
Okay, so there is an improvement in demand, and also for Tata Tea, localization has been one of your key strategies. Along with, when it comes to campaigns, you have created these hyper-local campaigns around many of your products. So will you continue to do so in the coming months as well, Puneet?
Yeah, absolutely. Our hyper-local marketing focus is working well for us, and not just at a campaign level, but it's a basic insight. And food and beverage, I mean, in a country like us, which is so diverse, every region, every geographical area has so much to offer. It's taste palettes are so localized, and I think that's the very basic insight that we picked up. Not just like I said, on promoting our tea, which has distinct blends for specific regions, but also on innovations that we're getting into. I think the latest example of our innovation was we launched Tata Tea Premium Street Chai, that celebrated and was inspired from the iconic teas across various parts of the country. So we had Kolkata Street Chai, Mumbai Cutting Chai, Purani Delhi Ki Mithai Chai, and Hyderabadi Rani Chai. And these are tastes and flavors that people are aware of. They may not have access to it in their in their home. And through this initiative or through this launch, we are able to provide them. So I think we are using and tapping into this hyper local insight quite well, both across our marketing as well as products, and we'll continue to.
We've also seen a lot of innovations from Tata Tea in the past couple of months. So what is your strategy around it in the coming months, and what are the new products that we will see in the coming months? What is going to be your new product pipeline like?
So I think our innovation strategy, if you see, has been based on health and wellness, convenience, and premiumization, and those vectors are not going to change for us even in the future. So we had launched, say, 1.5, 2 years back, especially when, as we were coming out of COVID, there was this mindset of people were seeking actively health choices in their in everything, especially food and beverage. And we came up with variants like Tata Tea Gold Care, which has the goodness of natural ingredients, a localized brand called Tata Tea Chakra Gold Care. We restaged or reworked our product to Tetley Green Tea and added, vitamin C to it, so that, and it's now green tea with the goodness of vitamin C, which helps in immune power. So that was, one of the vectors. Then convenience is, especially in coffee, we are offering a lot of these convenience options, like I spoke about. How can you make a great cappuccino at home, taste like filter coffee, etc. and of course experimenting and launching premium products. So street chai is an example which not just taps into the hyper-local sort of insight, but is also able to upgrade consumers in their tea experience and sort of premiumize from their everyday cup of tea. So I think you can keep expecting launches along these three vectors, as far as R&D is concerned.
All the best for that. Thank you so much. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Shivani, and thanks once again for having me. All the best.
It is time for a short break. On the other side, we have Ashish Mishra, CEO, Interbrand India and South Asia, and Gonzalo Brujo, Global CEO, Interbrand, who got into an exclusive chat with Storyboard 18's Dilshad Irani. Welcome back. Global brand consultancy Interbrand recently released its annual Most Valuable Brand list. In its 10th year, the Best Indian Brands report has become a definitive guide to the nation's brand landscape. This year's edition showcases remarkable growth, with it also being the first time that the total value of the table has surpassed $100 billion mark. Find out who topped the list and what are the big trends from Ashish Mishra, CEO Interbrand India and South Asia, and Gonzalo Brujo, Global CEO Interbrand, who got into an exclusive chat with Storyboard 18's Dilshad Irani. Hello and welcome to Storyboard 18, Gonzalo and Ashish. It's lovely to have you on the show.
Thank you and welcome to Interbrand.
Tell me, let me begin with asking you both, what is that one key takeaway from this year's evaluation of the top brands that you all have sort of gathered and observed? I'll start with you, Gonzalo. What was your one key highlight?
Well, I think the key highlight of today's ranking is that the economic situation is doing better in India. I can see that the brands are doing the right things. I think they are investing. I think they have the ambition to grow. And I can see more and more the Indian brands representative around the world, not only in Southeast Asia or in Asia, but also going to the United States and also Europe and Latin America. So I'm very, very excited. I see a lot of confidence on the Indian community and the people to try to go beyond.
Just to sort of take up from the point Gonzalo mentioned here about belief and confidence, how do you see that sort of, taking shape in the final sort of outcome that you see with the list?
Yeah, I think that's the most remarkable point that Gonzalo made. We have been doing the league table for a decade now. We did it in our first year itself. And if you look at the past league tables, it felt the league tables were reflecting an old economy situation. While it was all growing and in terms of numbers, we were doing fine. But the kind of brands that dominated the best Indian brands historically came from the old sectors, the so-called old economy sectors. There were a lot of diversified businesses. There were a lot of financial businesses and utilities and stuff like that. What's most remarkable in this league table is the fact that it's now aligned, and there seems to be a universalization of branding, so to say, that we're beginning to see in India. So you'll see tech brands, you'll see the businesses and the sectors that are really driving growth, driving value around the world, beginning to find dominant presence. And where does it come from, really? I think, like what Gonzalo mentioned, it is the businesses leading for a long time to brands beginning to lead now. And that comes from self-belief and confidence.
That's very interesting. Brands beginning to lead now. But since you've started talking about the list specifically, let me just go over the top 10. And then I'm going to ask you, what is that one commonality that sort of ties them in and, brings them up on the list. So there's TCS at 1, followed by Reliance Industries. We have Infosys at 3, HDFC Bank at 4, Jio at 5, Airtel at 6, LIC at 7, Mahindra at 8. In 9th
place is SBI and in 10 is ICICI. So again, so we still see, some of the sort of the banks and the old economy companies, but we also see a lot of the new economy firms. So Gonzalo, I'll come to you first, and you could perhaps sort of compare it to what you see on a sort of a global benchmark and scale. But what is perhaps this one common factor that ties all of the most sort of valuable brands in together?
Definitely. Very good question. I think top line, if you see the global league table, best global brands and best Indian brands, you see some similarities in the top 10. The top 10, both of them, they have technology companies. And why is that? I think one of the things that we see in the technology companies is that those companies, they're really, really trying to understand its customers. They really want to understand their segmentation, their customers, how they buy it, what are the things that they can offer to them. So I feel quite exciting that there is definitely a comparison between the global league table and the local one. So the second thing is that they are very agile. I think because they understand the big data, their customers, they are trying to move faster. What I need, how I can help you, how I can be more relevant, how I can improve my customer service to you. So I think these digital companies, because they have the data, they move faster. And I think the third thing is because they know what they want, they know what the customers are looking for. They are probably the biggest innovators right now. So they are trying to bring different offers, different solutions around the world that are in high demand of the Indian community in Mumbai, in India, and around the world.
And it's interesting that whether it's the global league table or the local league table, the top 10 have a very special status. And we actually call them super league of league table. So there is 100 most valuable brands, but the top 10 are super league. And likewise in India, the top 5 or top 5 actually out of the 50 are the super league. And they reflect a pattern, they reflect a value, the kind of dominance and the kind of value creation that you see from the top 10 globally or the top 5 locally is disproportionately high to the rest of the table. They are contributing a very large percentage and almost exceeding the balance 90 or the balance 45. So that's one thing which is really common, that the super league of brands are really the beacons, and they are demonstrating this really radical progressiveness globally and locally. And there are, if you talk about global, you'll see the likes of Apple, the likes of Nike, Amazon, and the kind of reinvention they're doing to the business models, the kind of stances they're taking. We call the definitive initiatives as iconic moves, and you begin to see the iconic moves that are being made by the global and the local super league brands. I think that is the most remarkable similarity.
I think something that is very, very exciting to see also some commonalities of the global league table and the local one is that the Indian community as leaders in the best global brands. You have more than 20 CEOs that come from India. Mm-hmm. So imagine how exciting it is for the Indian community to see that, yes, we have fantastic Indian brands that they are going abroad and they are international and they are growing and they are expanding, but also we have amazing Indian CEOs in American global companies. I think this is probably one of the most fascinating aspects in today's economy, which I think is going to make the belief that I think is happening in India in terms of the economy, in terms of the people, in terms of the aspirations, super exciting.
We've seen how important sustainability has become over the past few years. It's not nice to have, it's a must have. It's a business imperative. ESG, of course, is top on the agenda of every CEO and every financially responsible company. Tell me, in your view of how you've seen the value of brands evolve over the years, how has that sort of sustainability piece, how is that piece around culture, about putting in the new bottom line, which is people, planet, profits, how has that changed for the most sort of valuable brands in the world? Gonzalo, I'll come to you first.
So critical as a differentiator today, and I see today in today's world that these companies, they have a specific purpose to try to add something to the society. This is not about profits. This is about something else. We live in one world, and what we need to do is make the most of it. And I think finally, companies, they have the belief that they need to do something different. We call it acts of leadership. So what we believe is that the companies, they have the opportunity to drive change in this specific category, talking about climate change, sustainability, ethics, and integrity. Those are going to be very, very important topics for the brands, but also for their CEOs and the C-suite. This is happening everywhere around the world. And also there is a lot of pressure on doing the right things, making sure that we measure things properly, making sure that we have the right KPIs to make sure that definitely there is not a greenwashing, but this is real strategies to drive change in this specific subject. So more and more we see this not as a trend, but it's a principle on how the company should operate.
Tech companies dominating the list of the most valuable companies in the world, and I mean it's only natural given how pervasive technology is in our lives. But what do you see happening perhaps in the future and even now? Why have you seen any sort of surprise categories emerging? Any categories sort of gaining in prominence and will only gain in prominence going further?
Definitely, I see, besides technology companies, we see lifestyle brands improving big time. We see entertainment brands, what we call it in the play arena. So definitely there is ideally there is more space for customers to enjoy life, and maybe they don't work that hard. So I think the lifestyle brands are growing big time around the world more and more, not only in the entertainment, but also in the sports, in what we call the play arena.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Work-life balance, right? That's very important. Ashish, have you seen anything, if maybe speaking from the India perspective, any emerging categories apart from what we've seen with IT, tech, BFSI?
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's a really interesting development as an answer to that. Some of the sectors Gonzalo mentioned are the ones, and if you put the India context, you'll understand why. So, technology, because there is a technology in every business, it's going to grow. FMCG, because we have 1 billion plus people, and therefore consumption is always going to drive FMCG. We would have entertainment and lifestyle because we're moving up the value chain. So I think those are all sectors. What's really worth talking about is there may not be one sector. There may be the same brand playing across many sectors, and we call it, Gonzalo did refer to it as arena. What we speak about as a new pivotal shift in the space of brands and branding is shift from conventional categories to broader arenas. Now, if you look at Amazon or closer home Jio, how would you describe what category they operate in? And we talk about this phenomena as brands that build relationships with customers, having the license to transcend the conventional categories. So Apple does it, Google does it, Amazon does it, Jio does it. We're beginning to see JSW doing it. We, of course, Tata and Godrej kind of brands have always been. Maybe India had the concept of arenas much before arenas were invented. Yes. So we've had diversified, which in a sense were arenas, but increasingly you'll see brands globally and locally playing across sectors using the relationship that they've built with the customers.
So, for example, if you see today a local example, Jio, when we launched Jio, when we created Jio a few years ago, at the beginning was telecom, cellular, mobile, then moving to entertainment, then moving to now lifestyle. Again, you can go here, shop, and you can have experiences and interact in a different way with the Jio brand, which is super exciting. And what will be next? Well, they will be competing with financial services. Again, there is the discussions of Jio Financial Services or Jio Pay, which probably will come around soon as one strategy. So as you can see, as it mentioned, we are moving from industries to arenas. Apple competes with the Arena Fund. Apple competes in the express and in entertainment arena. So as you can see, there is kind of a shift in terms of industries to arenas. So brands enter into different categories. Jio is definitely a perfect example on how brands are evolving in this market.
Absolutely. That's fascinating. It's the era of arenas, right? Well, thank you so much for your time. It was lovely chatting with you both. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
With that, it's a wrap on Storyboard this week. You can catch all of our content on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Thanks for watching. We will be back same time next week. See you soon.